morning to all of you. I'm really happy to see you. Glad you're here, can't tell you. Even at a distance, it's great. Let's see. Let me tell you about the area. We're gonna keep working with a lot of what we've been working with, which has been a lot about the hip, the space in the hip, the front of the hip. How do things connect that affect the hip? So the area that we're going to work with today, if you want, you could stand up and just take your fingers to that pelvic bone right there, which is also called the ASIS. So you can landmark that with one set of fingers. And then can you find where is the greater trochanter on you? So usually it'll be right in that area where there's a little, it's kind of sunk in right there a little bit. So it's usually a little, that'll be like towards the back of it. So if you find that spot on you that's a little bit depressed, and then you go a little more, just slightly forward, you start to feel maybe some areas that are tender, and that's the area of the greater trochanter. Okay, so you've got this hip point, the ASIS, you've got an idea of like, okay, that greater trochanter. Now, this space between the ASIS and your greater trochanter. So right now you're touching the skin, but this space between those two can become really kind of tight, rigid, dry, hard, because we just have spent so much time sitting. So we've spent so much time with it in this position. So therefore, this can often be really just not well. It's kind of become a little dried up and not like moist and able to lengthen. And the muscles in this area help to lift the knee. So sitting, like if you pick up your knee right now, you'll feel some contraction under your hand. Or if you also externally rotate, turn that leg out, you can really feel that space between the ASIS and your greater trochanter, the top of the femur there. Just rotate the leg out so you go, oh, I feel that area there too. So external rotation, hip flexion, and also when you take the leg out, right? You feel that contract underneath you. So abduction, abduction, there's those same muscles. That also means that sometimes even in the standing, when we shift the weight onto the leg that you happen to be palpating, when you reach all the way down to the ground, you might also feel that contract because it helps stabilize the hip joint. Okay, so that we're gonna work a little bit with how can we create more space there, and what does that do in regards to our poses and our practice. All right, so let's go ahead and come down to sitting. And a comfortable seat, whatever that looks like for you. It doesn't need to be a cross-legged seat. It can be sitting in a chair or sitting in a Virasana, hero's pose, or whatever's comfortable. You can rest your hands. You're welcome to close your eyes and find the ground beneath you. Find the support of the earth. So you feel the sit bones, how they connect to either the blanket or the chair or the block, and reach all the way into the earth. From that, lengthen your spine. Relax your shoulders. And you're deepening your breath. So as you take your seat this morning, I'd like to invite you to either practicing the even inhale and exhale while simply breathing, or if you know Ujjayi breath, you can practice that. So can you practice the smooth quality of your inhale and also the exhale? And drop your attention into the transitions. And then you're welcome to let go of any control on your breath, but still stay present with noticing how your body is being breathed. And then bring your hands together in front of your heart. And we'll open the practice this morning by chanting Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Saha Vidyam Karava Va'ai Teja Svina Varim Tamastu Ma Vidvisha Va'ai. Again, together, may we be protected. Together, may we be nourished. May our practice bring great energy. May we feel illumination. May that illumination dispel any darkness. And may we not hate others. So taking a deep inhale. Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Saviryam Karavavai Tejasvina Varim Tamastu Ma Vidvyashavai. Shanti, Shanti. With your exhale, you can bow your head towards your heart. Release your hands and lift your gaze. So let's go ahead and come up to standing. You can come up to standing. You might move your blankets out of the way. You might want a couple of your blocks to come to the top of your mat. And we're gonna step the feet wider apart. We're gonna come into a wide-legged forward fold. So stepping the feet wide apart, hands up on the hips. There's that pelvic point right there under your fingers. So you can notice that. And let me just remind you again, we're gonna really get a sense of this area between these points over towards the outer hip, the greater trochanter. So that territory from the skin all the way deep inside, all the way to the bone. So with the hands up there, inhale, lift through the top of your breastbone, and with your next exhale, fold forward. You fold forward and you're gonna bring your hands either to your blocks, or if you can keep the legs straight, if it's not hard, you'll bring the hands to the ground. And again, can you drop back into your breathing? And then, so you're still gonna work with the breath. And then if you bring your attention into that space between the top of the pelvic bone and the top of the greater trochanter on the right, so that territory in there from the skin in all the way to the bone, can you soften and lengthen that space? When you do, you might feel the pelvis can move a little bit, the tilt forward more. You might feel the pubic bone come down between the inner thighs. So that the pelvis moves around the thigh bone. And you might notice on one side how on one side you might feel like it doesn't feel maybe as open, or maybe you feel as you're bowing forward, it's pulling in toward each other. Those two places, the pelvic bone and the greater trochanter. So can you put your attention there and try to create more space there with your felt sense, with your attention, more space between that hip point and the top of the thigh bone. We were also talking about, in this wide-legged forward fold, is your sacrum level? Is your pubic bone at the midline? Are you toning all the way from the inner thighs to the inner heels? And then we'll straighten the arms if the arms are bent. And then let's shift the hands up to the hips. And inhale, come back up. Great. And let's step the feet back toward each other, either heel and toe, or you can just step the feet together and let both arms dangle. And can you drop back into your breathing? And then we're gonna step the feet wide apart for a side angle pose. So feet go wide. You're gonna turn your right foot out and your left foot in a little. It's helpful if you have a block or something. A chair can also work well at the right outer heel or ankle. And then let's inhale the arms out. Exhale, you're coming to side angle pose. So the pelvis starts to point towards the back leg. So if you bring your attention again to that hip point on the back leg side, so the pelvis, right at that hip point, and the space between there and the greater trochanter again. And can you lengthen them away from each other? And can you reach all the way to the outer left heel? And then we're going to inhale, come up. And exhale, we're going to take the second side. Spin the feet the other way. A prop at the outer left ankle or heel. When you're ready, take the arms out again. And then exhale, side ankle pose. And once again, from the top of your right hip bone and the greater trochanter, can you take that tissue from the skin all the way to the bone of the pelvis, the space in between, all the way to the right outer heel. And then let's inhale, come up. Exhale, release both arms. And step the feet to center again. Let's inhale, lift both arms up to the sky. And exhale, bring your hands down in front of your heart. And then inhale the arms halfway out. Exhale, bring them forward, palms facing each other. Clasp the hands. Inhale, draw the palms toward you. Exhale, reach them away from you. Inhale, lift the arms up. And exhale, take the arms wide. One more time. Inhale the arms halfway up. Exhale, bring the hands forward, palms facing each other. Clasp the hands, change the clasp. Inhale, draw the hands towards you. Exhale, push them away. Inhale, lift your arms. Lengthen all the way through the sides, to the ground, all the way up. Another deep inhale. And then as you exhale, you're going to reach the arms out to the side again. Great. And then relax both arms. And take mountain pose. And once again, can you drop back into the smooth 1-to-1 ratio of the inhale and the exhale? You do that in standing. Great. And then we'll let that go. Then you're going to take either blocks or maybe the seat of the chair. We're going to take Parshvattanasana. So I could have blocks at the top of my mat. I could have the seat of the chair at the top of my mat. But we're going to step your right foot back and left foot forward. So the back foot can be turned out slightly. The left foot's pointing straight ahead. Let's inhale the arms out wide and exhale, bow forward. So we're balancing the weight in the hips. Hands are going to come down to either the seat of the chair, to your blocks. So even now on the front leg, as you reach all the way from the inner thigh of the front leg, from the inner left knee all the way towards the inner heel and the big toe of the forward foot. And as on the outside of your left foot, at your outer left heel, can you lengthen all the way up towards the left outer hip? And that space between the left outer hip and the left hip point, can you make that long? So you're going to increase that distance. On the back of the pelvis, the right side is going to be slightly higher than the left. And then we'll come to fingertips. We'll take the arms out and come to standing. And then step forward. Relax the arms and step your left foot back. So right foot forward, back foot is turned out just slightly. You can have your props or your blocks or your chair present and able to help you. And then inhale the arms wide. And exhale, bow forward. So you're lengthening from the right inner thigh, inner knee, all the way into the right inner foot, big toe, and then start to reach from the outer right heel all the way up the right side of the leg to land at that top of the femur, the greater trochanter, on the outside of the right leg. And then can I put my attention into this distance between the top of the right thigh bone and the pelvic bone? And in that space, how do I create more space right there? How's the breathing? what I noticed too is that sometimes I can, as I increase that space, it might allow me to come over the top of the front leg. It might. As I increase the space between the top of the right thigh and that pelvic bone, then we'll come to fingertips. Take the arms out and inhale, come up. Great, step forward. Standing on both legs. Inhale, lift both arms. And exhale, fold all the way down to Uttanasana, your forward fold. Inhale halfway. Exhale, forward fold. One more time, inhale, halfway up. And exhale, step your right foot back. So you might, if you're using your blocks, you might pull the blocks back so that they frame your front foot. So once again, even on the back leg, I'm going to reach from that top of the hip point all the way to that outer top of the thigh from the greater trochanter. It doesn't mean that I'm turning my pelvis towards, I'm not physically turning the pelvis to the left. I'm lengthening back. My pelvis is actually begins to turn slightly to the right. And then let's lower the back knee. And if you need a blanket or something, put it under your back knee. You can grab your blanket. Give your back knee some padding. And make your blocks tall. If you don't have blocks, you might bring your hands to the top of the thigh. And as I work on this space again between the top of the hip point and the outside of the leg, I'm going to do this really thoughtfully. Can you keep lifting at the top of the breastbone? I feel my left heel on the floor. And then we'll come back to a low lunge. So you'll tuck the back toes under and let's step forward again. There's Uttanasana. So even in Uttanasana, we get a sense of that space again between the hip point and the top of the thigh bone. Spacious, or maybe it feels more spacious. Then inhale halfway, and exhale, step your left foot back. So in this, as you reach you've got the left hip back, and you're gonna go to the top of the hip point on the left, all the way to the greater trochanter, right in that space, lengthen. I might also notice if I put on the front leg, if I pay attention to this space, I notice that when I go, oh yeah, I want to keep some space there too, I feel a little more weight come into my right heel. We're going to lower the back knee. And either Either bringing the blocks tall or the hands to the top of the thigh. And the space between the left hip point, the left greater trochanter, and then we'll tuck the back toes under. Come back into the lunge with the knee lifted. Inhale, step forward, forward fold, and exhale, bowing in your forward fold. Hands can either be on blocks or they'll be on the ground, whichever is going to be most comfortable. And that you're able to keep the knees straight. Then we'll inhale halfway. Exhale, shift the hands to the hips. Inhale, lift yourself all the way up. Exhale, hands back in front of the heart. And then release both arms. And let's take a wide stance on your mat. Again, if you need blocks, you've got them. We'll start with hands up on the hips. Lift at the top of the breastbone. And exhale, bow forward. Even as you bow, watch that space. Watch and see if you find that one of the legs wanting to internally rotate. So, which brings that closer together. You're going to take it wide apart. We're going to take downward dog arms. So the hands can either be on blocks or they might be on the ground. Let's balance the weight between the heel and the ball. Tone from the inner lower adductor, inner knee, all the way to the inside of the foot, the inner heel. Deep breathing. Long spine. And then we'll walk the hands back. Shift them to the hips. Inhale, come up. And exhale, you can step or hop the feet back to center. Mountain pose. All right, let's take a sun salutation. So again, blocks can be at the top of your mat. Hands in front of your heart. Let's inhale, lift both arms. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway up. Exhale, plank pose. If you need to have knees on the ground, that's fine. Plank pose. So you're toned at the inner thigh, broad across the upper back. We're going to exhale, lightly touch the knees down. And exhale, bring your chest down. There's the tops of the feet, the tops of the thighs, tone the inner thigh. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, lower. Can we do that 2 more times? Inhale, cobra. And exhale, lower. Forehead comes all the way down. Take your time with your inhale, rise, cobra. Your exhale, lower. Inhale, all fours. And exhale, either downward dog or puppy pose. And next, inhale deeply, and then you're going to exhale, step forward. Inhale halfway. Exhale, bow. Inhale, rise. Exhale, hands in front of the heart. All right, so one more time, one more sun salutation. We'll add the lunges. Inhale, lift both arms. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale halfway. Exhale, we're going to take downward facing dog. Inhale, lift the right leg. Exhale, right foot forward. So you can always draw the blocks in. Take the arms out and rise up. Maybe add the arms. With your next inhale, take the arms out. Exhale, plank. Your next exhale, knees can touch, chest comes down. Inhale, cobra. Your exhale, lower. Two more times, cobra pose.
We lost you. Lynn, are you there? Does anyone else see her?
Oh,
No,
can you
Pat,
hear me?
there you are. Yeah, we lost you. You were frozen on the mat.
How horrible. I'm glad it wasn't real. Okay, so let's see. Thanks for letting me know. Let's see what happens. It was, the internet was a little funky this morning. Okay, can you go back to having your right foot forward, left foot back in a lunge? There you go. Making space between the top of the left hip point, the left outer hip. And then we're going to inhale, come upright. Inhale the arms out. And exhale, bow forward. Inhale, step forward. And exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway. And exhale, fold. Good. Inhale, come all the way up. Arms overhead. Exhale, hands back in front of the heart. And then release both arms. Okay. Now, I'm going to grab a chair, bring it over here. Let's see if this will do a little experiment here since I don't have a wall close by. Yeah, this is gonna work. So let me show you what you're gonna do. You could you're gonna either use a chair or you'll stand close to a wall. What it's gonna be is a different version of tree pose though. So I'm gonna shift my weight to my right leg. And I know there's this habit of reaching out, so I'm gonna draw into midline. And then rather than bringing my foot to the inner thigh, I'm gonna see if I can take a hold of my foot with either my hand or a strap and just take the knee down towards the ground. So you'll either have left hand at the wall, stand on the right foot, or left hand on a chair, something like that. So go ahead and go there. Shift the weight to the right. And then pick up your left foot. Can you use a strap or your foot to grab onto your left ankle? Can you draw the right outer hip into midline? And then can you bring your attention into that space between the left hip point and the left outer hip and release those away from each other? And when you do, maybe you felt the knee begin to point more towards the ground. So between that left hip point and the left greater trochanter. Okay, and then we'll release that side. And then we're going to switch to the other side. So if you're at a wall, you can turn around, face the other way. It does take time to put your attention between those two spots. So now you're going to shift the weight to your left and bring the right foot up. And you'll either grab onto the ankle or the foot. And you're going to start to take the right knee towards the ground. I'm going to also notice if I was shifting my left hip out to the side, I'm going to pull it into midline. And then I'm going to drop my attention into that space between right hip point, right greater trochanter, top of the right thigh, and see if I can lengthen that space. There's 2 more breaths. And then with your next exhale, you can release that. Stand on both feet. Okay, great. I'm going to move my chair out of the way. If you're at a wall, you can go back to your mat. And I'm going to have my 2 blocks out in front of me or the seat of a chair and just taking Uttanasana. So you'll inhale, lift both arms. Exhale, bound forward. Releasing the head and neck. Then we'll inhale halfway, lengthen the spine. Exhale, let's shift hands to the hips. Inhale, come up. And exhale, we're going to take the feet apart for a triangle pose. Turn your right foot out, left foot in, take a block or 2 to the left outer shin. Inhale the arms out. Exhale, so triangle pose. So you might take your left hand to your hip to start as you bring your right hand down to a block. Weight is balanced in the hip, especially on the forward leg. So on the front leg, let's notice as you take the left outer greater trochanter away from that hip point on the left, let's see what happens to how that changes what's happening in your pelvis. The weight through the forward leg, sorry, not the left one, the right one, sorry, the front leg. Then you're gonna turn the heart open. As you turn your heart open, you're steady with the front leg, still really reaching into the front leg. And can you bring your attention into the back leg, that space between the hip point and the top of the femur on the back leg. So we're talking fascia, we're talking about all the wrappings, making some space there, and then lift your arm up to the sky. And then let's inhale, come up. Good. And we can step the feet together. And let's take the second side. Feet apart. Now it's the left foot out, right foot in. Block at the outside of the front leg. Inhale the arms out. Exhale. Triangle. So on the back leg, you might bring that hand to the hip as you bring the forward hand down to a block or something. And on the front leg, draw that outer hip into midline. You're lengthening out the inner thigh of the front leg all the way to the inner heel. Maybe at the arm. Where's the base of the skull? And then we're going to inhale, come up. Exhale, release that. Step the feet toward each other. Pause. And then let's step the feet, about the width of your sticky mat. Bend both knees. You can bring the forearms just above the knees. Into this, what do we call it? We could say 2-point stance or whatever. Let's come into reaching into the feet. So a little symmetry. Is the pubic bone at midline? And then let's come back up to standing. So let's grab a couple blankets to come to the ground. So get our blankets, and we're gonna sit in Baddha Konasana. So give yourself as much height as you need so that when you sit in Baddha Konasana right now, you want this hip point to be as high as your knees. The hip points to be as high as the knees. So you might have to give yourself more support, more height. And you can hold on to the shins if you like. We're gonna sit tall. We can drop back into that space of the hip points to the outer hips. Now, let's see. You might remember, I could have done this at the beginning of class. I forgot. It would have been interesting to see if we'd done this at the beginning of class and then we did it now, just to see if you've got more space. If the knees were able to drop a little lower. All right, one more breath in. Okay, and then we can take the hands and lift them up. Let's come off of your blanket. You can shift it off to one side. And let's bend both knees. You've got a hold of the tops of the shins. And now go behind the knees. And lift the lower legs. So now we've got a version of Navasana, boat pose. Because in a moment, we're going to stretch that space we've been working on. But right now, it's contracting probably a little. So you can either keep the knees bent, the shins parallel, and the arms reaching. Maybe the legs straighten. How's the breath? And then we'll bend the knees. Good. Okay, so we're gonna lie back. It's gonna look like this. When you lie back, you're gonna take the right heel toward the left sit bone. There's the right heel towards the left sit bone. And then I'm gonna take the right arm overhead. Okay, so lie back. And then bringing your right heel toward your left sit bone. And then reaching the right arm overhead. And again, can we soften the space? Can you soften that space between the right hip point, the right outer hip, the front of the upper right pelvis, between that and the top of the right thigh? All right, let's take the other side. So on the second side, you're going to take the left heel to the right sit bone. And if you like, add the left arm overhead, palm up towards the sky. Softening that triangular space from the hip point to the greater trochanter, almost towards the pubic bone, but not quite. And then we'll release that, both feet on the ground. Let's bring both knees to the chest for a moment and hug the knees in. Just inhale, take them an arm's length away. Exhale, hug them in. Happy baby, puppy pose, or dead bug, or whatever you want to call it. You can hold on to the ankles, the backs of the thighs, the little toe side. Soles of the feet toward each other. There's a supine, a reclined Baddha Konasana. Then we'll bring the knees together, the feet to the floor. And you're probably gonna want to roll over to one side and use the arms to push yourself up. For this part, if you have blocks, you could use blocks, and if you don't, you might use blankets. So I'm going to take one block under my pelvis. Maybe I might even like a block and a blanket. That could be a really good height. Let's see. Try that. If I have, I'm going to take one of my blankets, fold it a little different. Kind of like so. All right. So if I bring up a block under the pelvis, I know that for me, just because I don't have a lot of tension here, that I could use a little more height under my pelvis. Some of you, one block might be enough. I'm going to take this blanket, press into both feet, and I'm going to put it on top of my block and see if that gives me a little more height. So then what I'll do is I'm going to bring my right knee toward the chest and take the left leg out. All right, so can you take some version of this? And again, you're creating some softness between the top of that hip point, the side, and across the front of the hip joint. And then bend that knee of the straight leg. Put the other one on the floor. So both of them are on the floor. Bring your opposite knee up. Clasp your hands behind that thigh and take the other leg out. Again, between that upper hip bone over towards the greater trochanter, across the front of the hip joint, deep breathing. And then bend the straight leg. Put both feet on the floor. Okay. Then we're going to press into the support under the pelvis. If there's one block there, or there's a blocks or blankets, let's just move them out of the way for a moment and come back to the ground with both feet on the floor. I'm going to put my fingers right on those hip bones, so I have some awareness right there. And then, can you take a blanket? I think what I'll do is roll to the side, use my arms, push myself up, and then I'm going to take one of my blankets, it's the long way, and I'm going to take another blanket on top of that one. Okay, I'm going to be right in front of those when I lay down. But then I'm going to slide them under my pelvis. So now I have a much squishier, softer surface under my pelvis. And I'm going to bring both knees up, arms out wide. I've got my knees together, feet together. And with your next exhale, bring the knees up and over towards your left elbow. Back to center. Exhale over towards the other elbow. Back to center. Inhale deeply, one more time to each side. The opposite shoulders back. Back to center. And over to the other side. Up towards the other elbow. And back to center. Great. And I'm going to take another version of dead bug or happy baby. This time my sacrum is up on the blankets. Soles of the feet toward each other. Baddha Konasana. I've got my inner elbows on my inner knees. Not my inner elbows, my elbows on my inner knees. And that space between that hip point and the top of the femur, and lengthen that space. Then I'm going to bring the knees together, feet back to the ground. I'm going to come off my blanket and I'm going to slide my blankets
so that they're going to go underneath my knees, and I'm going to take Shavasana. So you're going to be here resting in Shavasana, and then we're going to do a little pranayama after our Shavasana today. So coming down to your resting Shavasana. And letting go of any holding in the belly. And also relaxing the tongue into the back of your throat.
allowing your breath to deepen. And beginning to awaken your body to movement. Make a mindful transition over to one side. And use the support of your arms to come back up to sitting. And please take a seat that's comfortable, that you'll feel good about being in for about the next 4 minutes. So we're going to practice the box breathing with the Ujjayi breath, or a simple, just a smooth breath. So if you'll, once you've taken your seat and you've made yourself comfortable, just take a deep inhale through both nostrils and the exhale out both nostrils. This breathing, we're not going to use the hands at all. We're just going to work on the smooth quality of inhaling for, say, a count of 4, suspending the inhale for 4, exhaling for a count of 4, suspending the exhale for 4, and keeping going. So you're going to work with a suspension on both the inhale and the exhale, the smooth transitions. And if that count of 4 isn't the right length, you can change it, whatever meets your needs right now. And at the bottom of your next exhale, you can let go of any control on your breath. Bring your hands together in front of your heart. Namaste. Thank you, everyone. Be well. I'll come a little closer in case you want to check in. Let me just, I'll stop this recording.